Alrighty, welcome back to Unreal Engine Indy. Today we're going to do the enemy class. So we left off with being able to do the overlaps and be able to activate them, deactivate them. So let's go ahead and get started. What you're going to need first is an enemy. So just open up the Unreal Engine Marketplace and go ahead and search for Paragon. And what you want to do is look for Chimera. Go ahead and add that to your project because we're going to start with a melee enemy, and this will be perfect to work with. Alrighty, so we're in the Unreal Engine editor. I'm going to go ahead and play this, and what we can do is we can deactivate, apply damage. We can activate weapon, apply damage, and deactivate. So what we need to do is we need to come in here to our C++ class, and we need to go to Wukong. We need to go to public. Now inside here, you just want to create a new class. And a character is a type of pawn that includes the ability to walk around. Well, we definitely need that. Go ahead and click next. And we are going to put this in enemy folder. And we're going to call this enemy and create class. Okay, so the class is created. So let's go ahead and jump into the editor. All right, so now we're in the editor. What I need to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add these. Go ahead and push that up real quick. Okay, so now we are in the enemy.h, and in enemy.cpp we have a enemy. We have begin play, tick, setup player input component. We don't need that, so but let's jump into the enemy.h. We are in the enemy.h file. The first thing I'm going to do is set up player input. We're going to go ahead and remove that. We don't need it. And there we go. So go back to the enemy.h header. And we have tick public. I think what I'm just going to do is I'm going to put that up into public, and I'm going to take this out. And we do need a private section. And in the private section, we are going to need a few things. One is enemy name to display. Enemy name to display on HUD. So what I'm going to do is copy this, paste that over for my other project. I'm grabbing a lot of code that I use for Jotunheim Shield, the game that I am actually developing. We'll just do fname and just do enemy name. And what we are going to do is we're going to have a main class called enemy, and then all of our melee is going to be another class, and then our range is going to be another, and we're going to create it from the enemy main class. I'm going to show you that next. Base damage. So we're going to need an enemy name, and we are going to need base damage. So we have enemy name and we have base damage because every enemy has a name and every enemy can do damage. Health and max health. So let's come in here. So we've added enemy name, we've got base damage, current health of enemy. So we are going to need that. We're going to make it blueprint read write and max health. And that's going to be blueprint read write edit anywhere. And I believe that is about it for right now. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, so we've got a main enemy class and everything was pretty much boilerplate set up for us, and we just added a private section and then we added enemy name to display, and we have base damage, which is a float, health in the float, max health in a float. So let's go ahead and compile this and jump into the editor. Okay, so now we're in the editor and we go into C++, Wukong, public. Let's go to enemy. So we have an enemy class. If you hover over it, it says parent class character. So with C++, you can have multiple inheritance, and this is good because the way we're going to set this up is we are going to be using this enemy class here. Anything that a melee and a range player has, we're going to put that into the enemy class. Now for some things that only a melee character can do, we're going to put that in the melee class, and the same thing for the range. So how we are going to do this, because we want to that Chimera character, that is melee. So let's go ahead and right click, create C++ class derived from enemy. Make sure you create C++ class derived from enemy, and that's going to be in public enemy, and we are going to call this enemy melee, and then the other one will be enemy ranged, but that's going to be later, and we'll go ahead and create class. Okay, so the class is created, and we have here, I'm going to maneuver this around, and we have the enemy.h and we have the CPP. So I'm just going to go ahead and added enemy melee and set up main enemy class. I'm just sending this over to Git. So we have the enemy, we have a enemy melee. So as you can see, we have Wukong API, we have a enemy melee. It is derived from a enemy. So anything and a enemy is derived from a character. So let's go back into the enemy melee.h. We're going to need a few sections. We're going to need a public, and inside public we are going to have to set up a enemy melee, and then we're going to need a protected section, and we're going to need a private section. And also a good thing with this is when you create other enemies, like, I mean, you're going to have a melee and you're going to have ranged, but when you create other enemies, like let's say bosses, because there's going to be special things that you'll need for like a boss, And what you can do is you can just go ahead and do the same thing we just did for this melee character. Let's say you have boss A. Well, then you can just go ahead and create a C++ class from that, and you can go ahead and put your special logic inside C++ for the boss. So let's go ahead and jump back into the editor. So we're in the editor, and what we need to do is we have Wukong here. We have rigs, maps, game mode, character. I'm just going to create a new folder and just call this enemy. Now what we are going to do is we're going to go into the C++ classes. We'll go to, okay, so go to enemy melee. Make sure it's enemy melee. Right click. Create a blueprint class based on enemy melee. And we are going to call this the Chimera blueprint. And we are going to put that in a Wukong enemy. Create a blueprint class. So now that we have a blueprint, go ahead and compile and save. If you click up here on Chimera BP self, you'll notice over here to the right we have a combat section. We have enemy name, we have base damage, we have health, and we have a max health. So all that was set up in the enemy class, but since the enemy melee derived from enemy, we inherited all the things we set up in the enemy class. Go ahead and set this up. Enemy name is going to be Chimera. We have a base damage. Let's say base damage of 10. Health is going to be 100. Max health will be 100. And we'll just go ahead and save that. Now that we have this set up, so let's go ahead and click on mesh, and you should have already imported that character in. So the skeletal mesh, let's just search for Chimera skeletal mesh, and you have different ones, but I'm just going to use this one right here. You can look through, kind of like what we did with the Wukong character. You can look through and see which one you want. So let's go ahead and maneuver this person around. Let's just go ahead and do -88 on location, -90 rotation. And I want to make sure that this is lined up. That capsule seems a little small. Let's see, what is 100? Let's see, 55. Let's do 110. Yeah, 120. 110 looks about right. Okay, but we need to make sure that it is aligned properly. So let's go to perspective. Let's go to front view. Let's just go ahead and scroll in, and as you can see, that right there needs to come down. Because it needs to be aligned with the feet. So that looks pretty decent. Let's go ahead and go back to perspective. Alrighty, so that's our character, our enemy character. Let's go ahead and compile and save. So we don't have anything like the animation set up, and we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing the movement. Okay, so we don't have anything set up like movement or animation, blueprints. We're going to get that set up in the next video. Okay, so we have a mesh, and what we need to do is just click on capsule, scroll down to collisions. So collision, generate overlap events. Can character step up on? No. And collision presets. There we go. So we have pawn. So we should be okay. So let's go ahead and jump into our test map. Let's scroll in, click on that test dummy, go ahead and delete that. And then what we want to do is go to our enemy folder, come here, blueprints. We'll go ahead and swivel that around. And we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and save and click play. So when we click play, and we can activate weapon, apply damage, and deactivate weapon. So everything looks pretty good. So now we will be able to do damage. But the next thing we need to do is we need to get this Chimera character animated. And we will do that in the next video. So that's all I wanted to do for this one. Next video we'll get the enemy at least animated as far as idle. And then after that we are going to go ahead and start applying damage. So I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.